is a very talented poet. Many of you, well, some of you will be aware of his work, and others not, but you're about to have the pleasure of an introduction if you don't know Jake. I've had the pleasure of Jake staying with me in Avebury, which is always great fun. We usually end up writing poetry, which is fabulous. So, without further ado, I'll just introduce Jay Ramsay.
Thank you. So a lyrical interlude for you. So I invite you to just go in and out of awareness, close your eyes. Peter said yesterday, I will not be force-fed a partial reality. And that's as good a definition of poetry as you'll ever likely to get. So the first poem I want to share with you, thinking about the theme, the wisdom of the land, and how the land speaks to us, taking on from what Lucy was saying as well. I was talking with a lovely couple of people who are still here about power animals, and I think power animals can be a real portal into that true intensity of experience that has been dumbed down for us. So this is called Owl. You came out of the dark. You landed straight in our path. Or no, you'd been sitting there, strangely waiting, only suddenly what we thought was a rabbit, stranded in the full glare of the headlights, was you, turning your tawny, beak-masked face to face us, there in the middle of the lane. There, staring, there, unmoving. And the difference was everything. The difference was you did not move. You would not move, but stood with your thick-set body perched, even as another car drew up behind us, even as the headlights dipped and went dark too. In your eyes, I forgot for minutes what to do. The difference was you had no fear. You said stop, and we had to. And you said what you said with the whole of your being. Ow. What did you say? What are you saying now? Only consider this. Wisdom, or what you cannot name, that can stare back from the dark into the brightest light, staying what you are, perfectly illuminated. Owl, you promise of darkness and of dawn, you choose your moment then. You choose when to lift your almost ungainly wings and soundlessly go to a tree's height over the hedgerow. Only be what you are. Be what you truly are, and you will be whole, whole without fear. After I spoke here 2 years ago, which I enjoyed so much, about pilgrimage and the heart's journey, I did a day's pilgrimage, thanks also very much to Lucy, who hosted me, and we did it together, to Culbone, which is a very special place in northeast Somerset, near to Port-on-Weir. And I found myself thinking about how the wisdom of the land also speaks through to us in its power to heal. And Culbone is a place where everything extraneous just falls away, and you come into a place of radical simplicity. So this next poem is called Only Listen, and it's about being there. Imagine what might happen if you shut your mouth and listened. You might fall into 1,000 pieces of light, each irradiated with birdsong and blue sky, each of them speaking your original name in all your senses, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, and sensing. Fill them with listening, and you will find yourself again. And when you have become your listening, your breath will heal you of all misgiving and all the tightness you have held all over your body and being will become a babbling stream of healing, caressing and soothing, sustaining every cell. And you will be the one you always were within, who silently lives underneath everything. And if you listen, high above the sound of the water in the sun-dappled beech trees, like a church built all around the birdsong, you may hear a flute dipping and gliding and soaring in and out of the stillness of a dream. And long after the girl who played the flute has gone, you will hear, or imagine you hear, her song, half heard between the leaf breeze and the stream, where it has become your listening. The next one is dedicated to inner peace. Innisfree, up in County Sligo, the real place. And what it symbolises, because nature is constantly giving us a message through symbolism. A sudden dip at the last bend in the lane, down where the concrete pier juts out over the edge, and the wind drafts towards you over the incoming waves, as you stand in a blast of cool mountain-driven air. There it sits, realer than a dream, the greenest of secrets unto itself, apart from a little wooden jetty that says or seems to say, you can reach me. But there's no boat in sight, and no one to even ask. And this is how close and how far the peace is, where you're connected through and through. And if I can't sit here in peace, where there's no means to cross and nowhere to rest but the uncut, tangled verge, I'll never reach it. And nor, my friend, will you. Bit of an Irish twist there for you. Nature is constantly communicating to us in metaphor. Some of the poems I've been writing recently go under the title of Neo-Nature, because we need a new nature movement in poetry, for the reasons that Lucy was saying, as well as a romantic tradition. But it's something about bringing poetry back to that encounter, which is equivalent to that reconnection we need to strongly make. So this is called Beelines, and it's written at Hawkwood, you may know, up near Stroud, near where I live, and I've been teaching there for many years, so it's called Beelines. I was thinking about the bees. In a rough grass patch by a leaning silver birch, these boxes left as if in mid-move, two raised on a wooden frame, two down beside, half abandoned to the rain, private, unnoticed. Bees hovering at the lip, landing and crawling in at each box's tiny post-box aperture, and all the air between wild hedge and landing, trailing with bees constantly arriving. Each secret hive of honey massed, each box like dynamite running sweet inside as they ferry their pollen, all knowing their being and purpose, no doubting, all in their community, their meaning to be the honey they are making. As we drift apart in our separate lives, dreaming, desolate, violent, unsatisfied. Which I hope speaks for itself. It's very unsatisfying to not live in the way we need to. And of course the land is telling us that as well. Three more poems for you. This one's called Coombe Quarry. And also, again, it's something about what the land constantly is offering us in our experience in a way that can surprise us too. It's like, as a psychotherapist, I often say, when people share an experience with me, I say, if that was a dream, what would you make of it? Coombe Quarry stands up third of my partner. An after dinner stroll among spring loud birdsong, down the lane by a bubbling stream, beside the woods rising. Somehow our steps took us in spontaneously as deer, and up the steep path, climbing vague cut steps, the mud dry towards the brow of the incline, ridge, edge. Then the signs half hidden among brambles, just the other side of the wire fence, dangerous quarry works. A stick man falling off. And there it was, through a gap in the trees, vast as a canyon, 54 hectares, wide and deep in its sunset pink layered striations, falling beneath as we reach the viewing cage, excavated since the 19th century, down and down into the fossilized Devonian. And there at the base, a toy-sized unmanned digger, beside a prefab hut and a sound we couldn't place, as you wondered at it less than a mile away from where you live, and have all these years, neither seeing or hearing it. Something huge you didn't realize was there, like God, and a great hole in the ground, reflected in the rising light of the moon. Gaze beyond your garden end to that comb of trees across the fields, where it's forever changed your view. Get the idea. So two more for you. You can't think about the wisdom of the land without thinking of the wisdom of the sea. Those liminal spaces. So this is St. Ives, 6 in the morning, something like that. Swing and the swish of the waves breaking in. The sea like the planet, breathing in our sleep. Each suck, hiss and pause of drawing back. As I breathe or don't breathe and want to be as it, as deeply with you in my arms, in your arms, Mother of the sea. Mother who gave us breath, breathe me. All saints and the souls of the dead, who know that life eternal is inside the breath, say, listen to the sea, and surrender to the sense that takes you beyond form and name and memory, fathered in your birth and death by the Father of the air. And the whisper in my ear on this driftwood bench, the car that purred past on this side street like a silhouette in the still dawn, pre-dawn, lingering, like the warmth between us as I finally come back to bed. Wherever you are, come back to your breath. And that sense of this last poem now, from my most recent collection called Monuments. I was thinking about when Nelson Mandela died, and he was taken back to where he began, a place called Kuan Yin in South Africa. So this little poem to finish with. And in a sense back to his original name as well, which was Madiba. 500 miles from Johannesburg and fame, the land with its farms and animals unchanged. In her headscarf, with her polished ebony skin and smiling teeth, she says to Kara, his umbilicus was buried here. It's time he came home. It's time you came home. That word, that phrase, making everything else fall away to the one you truly are within, naked as the day, outside and inside, the same, and only then to rest in peace, where the mother knows and is smiling. Come home. She is waiting. Thank you.